The story commences with a character named Sal Cooper, battered and bruised, yet clutching onto his sword. Despite his hardships, Sal becomes the most indispensable shadow of the Cooper family. However, a man from the Night Army accuses him of betraying the family and aligning himself with the enemy for personal gain. In the name of the new family head, Sal is sentenced to immediate execution. In a desperate state, Sal tries to comprehend how he ended up framed. With the last ounce of strength in his body, he swings his sword towards the family head, viewing it as his final attempt to expose the setup. Sal had dedicated his entire life to his family, but it had ultimately become a burden. As he inches closer to the family head, the knights impale him. Vowing revenge in his next life, Sal awakens as a young boy, clad in tattered clothes. Confused about his whereabouts, he wonders if he has landed in hell. Suddenly, a maid douses him with water and orders him to clean himself as someone is coming to take him away. Enraged, the boy glares at the maid, only to receive a slap and a scolding for his behavior. Falling to the ground, he ponders why she refers to him as a brat. Upon catching a glimpse of his reflection, he wickedly chuckles and clenches his fist with excitement. It dawns on him that Sal Cooper has been reborn. In his previous life, he was a part of the Cooper family's shadow, alongside other children who were trained to carry out the family's dirty work. The rewards bestowed upon them by the family were boundless riches and glory. Thus, the shadows endured countless hardships. As an illegitimate son, the protagonist was determined to alter his fate. Bullied and lacking talent, he trained relentlessly. Taking the initiative to fight for the family, he achieved victory after countless battles. He had anticipated a warm welcome and valuable rewards from the family, but instead, he found himself framed. It was then that he discovered the harsh truth about the shadows. Alan took the shadow oath, transferring all of Sal Cooper's strength to himself. Sal Cooper, in turn, had to bear the pain of Alan's injuries. As for money and glory, those were reserved for people like Alan. Towards the end of his life, Sal Cooper struck back with all his remaining strength. He understood blood magic and reclaimed the powers that had been taken from him by Alan. At the age of 3, Sal Cooper swore not to repeat his past mistakes. As he was lost in thought, his stomach growled loudly, as if he hadn't eaten in days. He wickedly eyed a nearby rat, considering eating it to satisfy his hunger. Suddenly, 2 men entered, looking for Sal Cooper. One of them insulted him, calling him trash, and informed him that young Master Alan wanted to see him. Sal Cooper had no choice but to accompany them, as the guards forcefully dragged him away. In that moment, Sal Cooper realized that he had been chosen to become the Shadow. However, all memories of the initiation had vanished, likely due to a curse. Nevertheless, Sal Cooper came up with a plan for revenge and bit one of the guards on the hand. The guard yelled and attempted to punch him, but Sal Cooper, with his small body, skillfully dodged the blow. He then drew his sword, leaving one of the guards stunned on the ground. It was a surprise to everyone that a young child possessed such swordsmanship skills. Sal Cooper, filled with excitement at the feeling of wielding a weapon, continued on his journey. The Shadow Oath is a type of ancient blood magic. The one who casts the oath, known as the Oath Master, only needs to sacrifice a small amount of blood to make the target become their shadow. The shadow is unable to harm the Oath Master and must endure any injuries suffered by the Oath Master. Additionally, all the shadow's growth and abilities are transferred to the Oath Master. Due to the dark nature of this magic, the Empire issued an order a century ago to destroy all grimoires containing records of shadow oaths, preventing anyone from using them. The young master of the family slaps the guy who was bitten by the protagonist Alan. The successor of the Cooper family scolds him and says, "To be bullied by a wild dog, did the Cooper family raise you for nothing?" The Shadow says, "I'm so sorry, young master, it's because my subordinate failed his duty." Alan, walking towards Sal Cooper, says, "To think you're daring enough to touch my own people, someone lock him up in the dungeon." He is stopped by a woman, Alan's mother, and the matriarch of the Cooper family. As she walks toward Alan, she says, "That kid has not been looked after since he was young, so his behavior is normal." Emphasizing that now is not the time to punish him, she continues. The most important thing is to take his oath. She comes closer and whispers, "Don't forget what your mother told you." As Alan stares at her, he thinks, I have no idea why my mother chose this lowly bastard child to become my shadow. When I find the chance, I will definitely ruin him. He happily agrees to the mother's request. She continues to say, Your mother will bring these people out and won't bother you. And passing the order to cast the soundproofing spell, she orders everyone else to leave except for the young master and the children. After everyone leaves, Alan fills a golden cup with water and says, From this moment forward, you'll be members of the Shadow family. Every child standing there swore that they will dedicate all their life for the family, while S only gazing on the water in his hands without a second thought. Like everyone else, he drinks it all. The children, except Alan, fainted. Alan, with an evil smile on his face, makes a cut on his hand, dropping a drop of blood in front of the children. A huge magical array was formed on the ground. All of you will provide your strength to me, while all the harm I sustain will be suffered by you, Alan remarked. A few moments later, the ground was visible with purple energy transferring from the children to Alan's body. Alan stated, I can feel the power entering my body. The shadow oath, did it work? As he turned around to call his mother, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his knee and collapsed to the floor. Panic started to set in as he wondered why he couldn't move his legs. Could this be the aftermath of the shadow oath? But his mother hadn't mentioned anything to him. He called out to his mother and attempted to crawl on the floor. Suddenly, someone remarked, You really are a coward, hiding behind your mother's back. What a shame. In order to not disturb him before he finished the shadow oath, his mother had cast a soundproof spell. No matter how loud he cried, no one would hear him. Alan was terrified and looked behind him, only to find Sal Cooper with a murderous aura. Alan asked, How are you awake and how do you know about the blood oath? Sal replied, This is not the only thing I know. I wonder how your highness would react if I reversed the blood oath. With his past life experience, Sal successfully reversed the blood oath by striking the blade into the ground. Alan's heart ached as he yelled at Sal, asking him what he was planning to do. Sal calmly replied, In my previous life, I paid the price of my life to steal back everything that belonged to me. And in this life, I am simply returning the favor. Alan's yell was heard by the guards and his mother, who were standing outside the hall. The thought of what might have happened to him made his mother anxious. That night, at the Cooper family's castle, the oath-taking ceremony was followed by Alan's mother, the matriarch of the Cooper family, sitting by his side in his room. The butler briefed her about Alan's condition, saying, Madam, the young master's body is fine. He fainted temporarily because of excess magic use. He further added, As for the soundproof spell, it was because of the servant's incompetence that the spell broke. I have sent that person to be executed. In a cold voice, the matriarch said, Feed them to the dogs. The butler replied, But madam, the young master seems unsettled. After all, he's young, and to do this kind of thing, it's inevitable that there will be a burden on the heart. While Alan was lost in his thoughts, he couldn't help but feel unsettled. He can't remember what happened at the oath-taking ceremony. Alan's mother, concerned, placed a comforting hand on his head and said, Alan, you don't have to be troubled by the shadows. The strong prey upon the weak in this world, and you are. Alan interrupted and pushed her hand away, saying, How is this possible? A dark expression spread across his face as he continued, I am the future head of the Cooper family. Those wretched creatures should be born to sacrifice their lives for me, right, mother? His mother laughed and happily hugged him, asking if there was any reward he wanted. Sal Cooper, listening to all the nonsense from the balcony, remarked, What a deep bond between a mother and son, but what a shame. From this day forth, Alan Cooper has become my shadow. When he recalled his previous life, he mentioned discovering a blood magic index that contained a record of the shadow oath. He presented it to the family, hoping for a reward, but instead found himself becoming the family sacrifice. Luckily, he had looked through the book contents and combined that knowledge with his experience of reclaiming his power in his previous life. Now, all he needed was a little blood to reverse the shadow oath and switch positions with Alan. This 3-year-old version of himself was completely defenseless against them, so he knew he had to become stronger. With fearless eyes filled with passion for revenge, he deduced that the first step to becoming stronger was the flaming cliff. This was the Cooper family's testing ground, designed to select strong shadows willing to sacrifice themselves for the family. He further compared it to Prometheus stealing the flame for humankind and enduring the punishment of the eagle. Similarly, the Cooper family threw a group of children aged 10 and below into the flaming cliff, ordering them to trek through thorns and endure the attacks of eagles. Even in their final moments, they are forbidden from giving up until the first shadow reaches the summit and receives the blessings of the eagle griffin. This individual is granted a body that is impervious to harm, no matter how many times it is attacked or pecked. One day later, a man named Enos Walker, the Shadow's training officer, addresses a group of children with a bow. He informs them that they only have 3 days remaining and regardless of the method they choose, their sole objective is to reach the peak alive. Walker's tone shifts from instruction to a more sinister demeanor, as he warns them that anyone who gives up will face a death sentence after 3 days. Raising his whistle, he commands the shadows to set off towards their promising future. The children immediately start running upon hearing the whistle, but Walker is taken aback when he notices a composed silver-haired boy named Sal Cooper. Despite the high stakes, Cooper remains calm. The assistant instructor remarks that Cooper is the illegitimate son who angered the young master. Undeterred, Cooper begins climbing the cliff with his bare hands instead of taking the slope like the others. The officers find this amusing and predict that he will fall before reaching the halfway point. A griffin appears flying over the cliff, leaving the children in awe and confusion. They cannot comprehend what they are witnessing, and one of them refers to it as a monster. Finally, Sal Cooper reaches the mountain summit, where he is met with a colossal griffin and a pile of lifeless children. The officer positioned below opted to utilize the griffin to eliminate Sal, the one who had provoked Alan. The officer, filled with excitement, aimed his bow at the griffin, declaring, "Let's bring joy to the young master." He let loose the arrow, which swiftly struck the griffin's face, enraging the creature. Seeing only Sal in front of him, the griffin launched a deadly attack towards Sal Cooper. Sal managed to dodge the assault and used his knife for defense. Sal asserted that the key to swiftly ascending to the peak and gaining the griffin's favor was to tame it. He leaped onto the griffin to strike, stabbing the creature in the head before leaping back, aware of the griffin's stubborn and intelligent nature. Understanding that unless he completely subdued the griffin, it would never be tamed, Sal sprinted towards the creature, unleashing a sword technique known as shadow technique. However, the griffin withstood the attack and retaliated. The griffin unleashed a tornado attack on Sal, who nearly plummeted off the cliff but managed to cling on and climb back up. Taking a moment to strategize, Sal acknowledged that his current physical condition would not allow him to approach the griffin without being blown away. Yet, he found a solution reaching the cave. As Sal gazed at the cave, the griffin readied another assault with its powerful wind energy. Dodging the attacks, Sal made a dash towards the cave, realizing he couldn't evade the impending attack. Using the griffin's wind attack to propel himself closer to the cave, Sal activated the Shadow Oath to minimize the damage. Meanwhile, Alan, who was peacefully sipping his tea, dropped his cup and fainted at the turn of events. Employing his strategy, Sal successfully reached the cave entrance and darted inside as the griffin pursued him, taunting him. However, the griffin abruptly halted, astonished by the sight of Sal cradling the baby griffin and pointing a knife at it. The griffin asks, "What will you do to my baby?" Sal replies, "Relax, I won't hurt it." Sal proposes the offer to help his wingless baby fly, but of course, he has a condition. The two officers start walking towards the cave to collect his body, but suddenly, the griffin appears behind them with Sal riding on it. "All right, it's payback time," Sal says. The griffin, without wasting any moment, attacks and swallows both of them. After that, the griffin says to Sal, "I've done what I promised. Now it's your turn to fulfill your end of the deal." Sal asks the griffin to bring him to the secret realm at the northernmost part of this mountain range, to the land of stone. Both of them stood before the huge stone gate before entering. The griffin mentions, "As we agreed, you will only take the sword of Prometheus and help me get Medusa's blood to cure my child." "Sure, no problem," Sal remarks. However, Sal was not aiming for a sword, nor was he trying to help the griffin in any way. What he wanted was for the griffin to destroy the secret realm. The griffin pushed the door open, revealing a snake-headed woman inside. The statues guarding Medusa sprang to life, launching an unexpected assault. Amidst the chaos of battle, the griffin turned to Sal, questioning the sudden aggression. "I don't know either," Sal says. The force of the griffin's strike shattered all three statues, but to their astonishment, the statues inexplicably reconstructed themselves, leaving both of them bewildered by the surreal sight. Sal explains, "Do Eno and Pimpo all share the same eye and tooth, just like the Grey Sisters in mythology, because they and Medusa are the daughters of the sea deities. Therefore, they can control the seawater." "So run," the griffin says in a frantic retreat. Sal says, "What's the point of running? Hurry up and think of some way to find the sword I am searching for." The griffin warns him, "If this continues, this place will collapse, and both of us will die." Sal, with a concerned face, says, "I am looking. Maybe there is a way written on the runes of the wall." Yet, beneath his anxious facade, Sal harbored a hidden agenda, a desire to witness the collapse of this secret realm and escape from the secret tunnel he discovered in his previous life. He stopped and thought that this amount of destruction was not enough. He deceives the griffin, saying, "The runes say to take out the eye hanging from the roof." The griffin looks up at the eye, jumps, and takes it out, and the water deity is taken down as its power is depleted, Sal hinted. "Because the runes say that Perseus discovered the location of Medusa only after stealing the eye of the Grey Sisters, so the eye is the Grey Sisters' weakness." The griffin replies, "What about the sword? Where's the blood that can treat my offspring? Did the runes say anything?" Sal points his finger and says, "The sword is over there." He further explains, "Perseus used this sword to behead Medusa, spilling red and green blood. The red blood can poison all living souls to death, while the green blood can heal all illnesses, but these are just legends. There is another secret for the secret realm." The griffin asks, "What secret?" Sal replies in a lower, deeper tone, "The emergence of the sword of Perseus is the time of Medusa's revival." As Sal completed his explanation, Medusa awakened and started to attack the griffin. Sal takes this opportunity and runs toward the secret tunnel, thinking that once Medusa's statue activates, it won't stop unless it's beheaded with the sword of Perseus. As he was about to reach the tunnel, Medusa changed her target and attacked Sal. He successfully dodged the attack with Medusa right before him, thinking, "What is happening? Where is the griffin?" Due to fear, the griffin shrinks his body and hides behind a rock. When he sees Sal confronting Medusa, he yells, "You can tell at a glance that this guy won't be easy to deal with. I'll leave the rest to you. I don't want to die." Sal looked at him and thought that the griffin could shrink his body. At that moment, Medusa once again initiated an attack. Salivated by the thought, "It was fortunate I passed this secret realm once in my previous life, so I'm not out of options." He then runs toward the knight armor standing in front of him to acquire the shield, thinking, "I would then be able to use the shield's reflection to lower the risk of looking directly into Medusa's eyes and turning into stone from carelessness." Medusa attacked as he was about to approach the shield, but thankfully, Sal grabbed the shield, defending himself from her gaze attack. Sal was blown away because of the intensity. She was too powerful for him to handle with just the shield, and the secret exit was destroyed. Thoughts raced through his mind in the life and death situation. He speculated, "With my current level of talent, I cannot wield the sword of Perseus." Since Medusa didn't stop her attacks, Sal took a chance and ran toward the sword. He rushes to wield the sword, thinking he will risk everything. As he grabbed the sword was picked up, and he was to the point where Sal was in disbelief. Unfortunately, Medusa was able to pierce Sal's stomach, landing a critical blow. As Medusa picked up Sal, the thoughts of being a failure and how he could pick up the sword rushed through his mind. Thoughts of his past life flashed through his mind as he was about to die. Seeing Alan's face and the urge for revenge on the Cooper family boiled his blood to the point that he cut through all the strains of Medusa. A sudden surge of power flowed through him. Even the griffin was baffled. Sal angrily looked at Medusa, and within a moment, her head was lying on the ground. After beheading Medusa, while Sal was busy collecting her blue blood to cure Griffin's child, he thought that in a previous life, he had processed a sword talent that might have S rank or higher. But the matriarch used some magic to strip him of that talent and gave it to Alan. After that thought, he laughed wholeheartedly, seeing how the situation had now turned around since he was reborn. Seeing Sal laughing like a maniac, Griffin Pond wondered, "What's going on with this kid?" With an evil smile and bloody eyes, Sal thinks things are getting more and more interesting. Whether it's Alan or the family. All of you just wait. Seeing this, Griffin decides to escape, thinking Sal might get crazy because of how he is reacting. As he was quietly slipping away, Sal calls the Griffin to come here, giving shivers to Griffin. Griffin turns around, behaving like a servant, and responds, "You know, my lord. Why did you call me?" In his mind, he couldn't believe that he was an S-rank monster calling a child his master. Sal asks, "Is your head made of metal?" This question leaves Griffin puzzled, thinking why he is asking that. The Griffin comes out blasting through the wall of the secret realm. After landing on the ground with bruises on his head, he ponders. This brat was making use of me to destroy the secret realm right from the start. He thinks of letting him go for now since he agreed to treat his offspring. After a few moments, the Griffin started the ceremony and blessed Sal Cooper with a body that would not be injured no matter how much you attacked it. As he completed his sentence, Sal, with golden energy surrounding him, felt that his body grew stronger, and all the minor injuries were healed. Sal, while looking at his hands, thinks, "This is good. Reducing my body's injuries means I won't need to constantly transfer my injuries to Alan anymore, which could make the matriarch suspicious. Furthermore, I must hide my S-rank sword talent for now or I will be inviting unwanted trouble." After thinking about personal matters, he tells Griffin to give this blue blood of Medusa to his offspring, and its wings will be healed. Without wasting more time, the baby Griffin drinks the blood. Only after a few moments, his wings were healed, and he was happily flying, leaving the Griffin in awe. Looking at the baby Griffin, Sal reacts sarcastically and says, "It only knows how to fly now, but if it doesn't accept a master before it comes of age, it will just be a stupid bird in the end." Griffin interrupts him and asks, "What do you mean?" Sal, while showing the intent to leave, says, "Nothing, I'm just giving you kind-hearted advice as a stranger. After all, you also became strong only after you accepted a master, right?" With a serious expression, thinks he's right. If his master hadn't fed him human brains daily, HR wouldn't have awakened his intelligence and become stronger. But his master had already died for 100 years. Where am I going to find another powerful and ruthless person like him? He suddenly got an idea. The Griffin says, "Sal Cooper, please accept my child as your pet monster." Sal was smiling, thinking the fish had taken the bait. He turns around to Griffin and says, "All right, I can accept it as my pet monster, but you have to make a deal with me." Griffin asks, "Regarding your deal?" Sal says, "I want all the information you have regarding Bled Cooper, as well as the precious key that could unlock the place where the Cooper family worships the sword spirit." Bled, at the Cooper family's castle, the matriarch of the Cooper family shouts and says, "You can't find the cause," with a fierce look. She says, "Are you telling me that the young master's constant fainting happens out of thin air? How long will this situation last?" The butler calms her down and replies, "Don't worry, madam. The young master has the protection of the Shadow Oath and has always woken up very quickly after all. You have those little shadows helping the young master to take his injuries and, in his place, and supply him with strength." The matriarch suspiciously thinks that although the butler told the truth, this whole situation is too strange. It seems like Alan has become like this since the day of the Shadow Oath ceremony. The butler, in a calm voice, says that there is another urgent matter she has to take care of. He continued and said, Sal Cooper obtained first place, as expected, in the competence test. The matriarch angrily asked, Butler, what do you mean? The butler mentioned, It's just that Cal Cooper used the griffin to kill Uncle and Nephew Walker and even tamed the griffin's offspring as his pet monster. The matriarch, in a panic, spills the tea she was drinking with her shaking hands. She asks, Where is he now? The butler replies, He is right outside the door. I will call him immediately. The matriarch stands up and goes to see Sal. Sal enters the room and calmly asks, What can I do for you, madam? The matriarch asks, Why did you kill the walkers? Sal replies with a wicked face, I did it all for the family. A shadow training officer like him was killed by a 3-year-old child. He is too useless, and our family doesn't need him. Don't you agree, madam? Filled with joy, as he looked at her tense expression, he vowed never to back down, no matter what tricks she played. He would fight unexpectedly. She ordered the butler to reward Sal Cooper with recuperation in Eden Spring. Sal thanked her, bowing his head. As Sal departed, she instructed the butler to expedite the deprivation magic research, intending to strip Sal of his sword talent and transfer it to Alan. She contemplated the repercussions if Alan's inability and swordsmanship were to be exposed. His status as the heir would be jeopardized. This insolent child I'll spare you for now, but I'll see just how arrogant you remain when the time comes. At Eden Spring, Sal wandered by the pool, lost in thought. He remembered when Griffin mentioned that his master had sealed his soul with S-level swordsmanship talent at the bottom of Eden Spring, ensuring the Cooper family's status wouldn't decline within the Empire. He also bestowed upon him a key and imparted instructions on how to reach the underground cave. Additionally, he issued a warning, emphasizing that it had been ages since his connection with his master was severed, leaving him ignorant of the current situation. However, he cautioned Sal to beware, as his master was known to wield blood magic, a formidable force not easily countered. Sal thought about it. He knew it would be hard to get swordsmanship talent before Alan, especially after what the Griffin said. Spotting Sal, 2 kids began chatting about him. Hey, is that Sal Cooper, the one who came first in the test in training? The other nodded, saying, Yeah, that's him. He's also the guy who tamed the Griffin's cub out of nowhere. Reynold and Lucian chimed in, retorting, What's the big deal? He's just the son of a prostitute, nothing more. Reynold jeeringly remarks, Congratulations, I didn't realize you could scramble up that mountain like a skinny monkey and beat us to the top. Lucian burst into laughter, fully embracing Reynolds' comment. Sal reflects, In my former life, they appeared as my subordinates, but actually Alan controlled them. They falsely accused me of treason, assured by Alan's unwavering support. Lost in thought, Sal is interrupted by Reynolds' shout. Not going to talk? Reynolds aims a punch, adding, Let's test that indestructible body of yours. Sal catches Reynolds' punch, his eyes blazing with determination. All right, I'll show you, he declares, swiftly twisting Reynolds' arm. Reynolds screams in pain as Lucian looks on in shock. Lucian takes out a knife and yells at Sal. You bastard, you are looking for death! After the stabbing, Lucian trembled in fear. It was revealed that Sal had maneuvered Reynolds to be struck by the knife, remarking, I apologize, I accidentally used this guy as a meat shield. He gives Reynolds a kick, causing both him and Lucian to tumble into the water. Sal comments, The spring water here is said to have healing properties. Maybe it can help with your wounds. And hey, we can spar next time. Sal grins mischievously. I'll give you a reason to join me as my chess pieces in this life. As they submerged underwater, Sal caught a whiff of something sinister, like black magic, leaving him puzzled. He wondered, how can such dark, forbidden magic, like blood magic, exist in a spring known for its healing powers? There's more to this place than meets the eye. Maybe this is what Griffin meant by strange. But he knew, I can't dive to the bottom of the spring. I need to find a way to reach its depths without touching the water. Suddenly, cries for help pierced the air. Sal recognized the voice immediately. A man was dragging a child, scolding her harshly. If you can't serve tea and water, you deserve a punishment. The girl begged for mercy as the man raised his hand to strike. Sal stepped in, splitting the man in two. The girl watched in shock as the other children ran away. Extending his hand, Sal asked, "Are you all right?" To Andrea, he seemed like a prince, while Sal noticed her trembling in fear. Andrea clasped his hand, channeling her skill to heal him. Meanwhile, Sal, lost in contemplation of the past, reflected. Andrea was my closest companion in a previous life, wielding a magic prowess beyond compare. We once fought side by side, if only for a fleeting few days. He recalled a moment when Andrea nearly confessed her feelings. Andrea thanked him for saving her. Sal blushed, looking at her 5-year-old cute face, clearing his throat. He responded, "No trouble at all, it's merely the duty of a gentleman. And please call me Sal." But Andrea, do you happen to know how one might enter the spring without making contact with the water? I cannot forget the task I have. Sal ponders. Andrea, noticing his distraction, remarked, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Confused, Sal inquired, leaning in, as Andrea whispered, "There's a peculiar enchantment surrounding the spring. While it can heal wounds, those who partake lose the ability to accept any other form of healing magic forever, reliant on the spring for recovery. Looks like this is also another way for the Cooper family to control the shadows by forcing them to beg the family for help when they are suffering through pain." Andrea holds his hand and says, "But to thank you for saving me, I have a way to let you enter the spring without touching the water." She uses her magic to cover themselves with some kind of magic raincoat. "This is duck magic. Just like ducks, we can dive into the water without getting wet. Isn't this isolation magic?" Andrea's naming ability is as strong as always. Suddenly, some people came to catch them. Without a second thought, Sal took Andrea and jumped into the pond. The undercurrent of the spring helped him navigate to the location, while Andrea was trying to warn him not to go there. They were pulled by a powerful current deep inside the pool. Both of them reach some underground cave. Sal wakes up and thinks, "This might be the place I was looking for." As he takes out the key, Andrea asks, "What is that?" "This is the gem key. It can unlock this place where they worship the sword spirit." "But there is no door here. How do we use the key?" Andrea suggests. "Maybe it needs to be summoned. Although I don't know about the spirit, I can try." As she started chanting, a golden light covered his whole body. At that moment, Sal noticed something. The monster PL attacked them, but Sal saved Andrea and fled from there. As he fell to the ground, he looked back. A door appeared in front of him. Sal tried to wake Andrea, but she was unconscious. He picked her up and hid her between the rocks. He also enchanted invisibility magic, which Andrea taught him in his previous life. Driven by a thirst for retribution, he moves forward. As he steps into the gate, he sees kids lying on the ground, drained of their energy. A monster standing on top of the children detects Sal's presence, locking eyes with Sal. It exclaims in a terrifying voice, "We have a guest."